Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every day on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Spotify, Podbean, iTunes, wherever you pick up audio versions of the show. And if you'd like to contact us, you'll get us on Twitter at _upper_tier, or you'll get us on Facebook and Instagram, the Upper Tier. Joining me today, my red man brother. How are we, Craig?
Oh, good, Niall. A very interesting topic, to say the least.
Absolutely. Today we said we continue our Legend series, and this was a pick by Craig, who said this man has to be involved in this catalogue that we put together. And man, you can see behind me there who often divides a fan base big time. One Mr. Michael Owen.
Yeah, look, straight off the bat, I completely understand why he divides opinion, and I'm sure he does as well. Michael's not afraid to speak his mind. I think we know that. When I was growing up as a Liverpool fan, he was the kind of first kind of like poster boy that kind of came to me, as in, you know, that kind of like light where he's like a superstar on and off the pitch. He was very young. I think he was 19 when he broke onto the scene for us. And Gerrard, I think, deserves massive credit as a manager to literally just let him loose and just let him be free in his play. He just used to have no fear when you watch Michael playing. Like, he would run at players, experienced players, inexperienced players. He didn't care. He wanted to go for goal. His dribbling was outstanding. His finishing was unbelievable. You have to still remember he was 19 at the time. He looked like a seasoned professional up front. He had absolutely no fear and no stopping him. The only problem, I think, with Michael, which we all know, is the injury side of things really caught up with him and destroyed what could have been. Even though he had a decent career, he won the Ballon d'Or, obviously aged 21. Only the second English player, bar Kevin Keegan, in the last 40, 50 years to win the Ballon d'Or, which is an amazing achievement that there's been no English player since. That tells you the calibre of player that he is. 31 goals in that season. Golden Boot winner. Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, 118 goals in 216 games for Liverpool. You know, won the UEFA Cup, won 2 League Cups. Was on the bench, only a sub actually in the League Cup final. But then he came on against an Arsenal who were renowned with the FA Cup, the team that they had. What does he do? Comes on and hits 2 late goals. You know, he had no fear. Michael, he had no fear whatsoever. It didn't matter who it was. The only time I really reconcile with England is his goal when he did that run against Argentina, like the Maisie kind of run. He scored an absolute screamer. But that's the player that he was. Like, when I experienced him, I had like his pencil topper, I had his name on my jersey, I had his poster. You know, he was everything to me as a child growing up. And then, unfortunately, in the jersey behind you, I got a Owen 10 on the back, and then unfortunately in the summer he went to the Bernabeu, which it was very hard for me to take because I was only young and I hadn't felt anything like that before, where someone you love and someone you adore, you don't think they're going to go anywhere, you don't think they're going to age, you don't think anything like that. And unfortunately, obviously, he went to Madrid. But how do you feel about him in his early years as he broke onto the scene? And
he was unbelievable to me. I mean, if I was able to pan the camera over there, I have one of those jersey cushions on my bed there, and it's the Treble Cup winners 2001 cushion, and I've had that now since then. I bought it when they released it, I think about 2 months after they had done the treble, and it's still there sitting on the bed and has been since 2001, still hanging in there. That's when they made stuff really good, so it lasts. It's kind of, I suppose there's a split in the fan base about it. When he was playing for us, he was incredible. He was unbelievable. I mean, his play with Heskey, his play with Fowler, his link-up play with Berger and all these different players, like, was just incredible. You know,
he was a joy. He was a joy for anyone to partner
to watch. And we will go down some of his top goals there, incredible goals that I picked out, you know, to look at. But you can see the flip side of the fan base as well there, to say, he headed off to Real Madrid. And then he kind of came back to Newcastle, you know, and then went from Newcastle to Man United. Now, some people would say that, you know, if you're a true Liverpool lad,
Yeah.
And your loyalty lies there.
Yeah.
Some of the fan base would expect you to go unemployed and not earn any money
I
rather than go to Man
understand.
United.
I understand
But
that.
from my point of view, I think on both those occasions, I think he was offered to Liverpool. Certainly before the Newcastle move, he was offered back to Rafa, I think it was at the time. And Rafa turned him down. And he went back and, you know, they probed again when the Newcastle offer came in.
Yeah.
And Liverpool, I think, wouldn't come in. I don't think Liverpool would match the money. He wanted Liverpool to match the money that was offered to him at Newcastle. And
he felt he was still, you know, applicable for that, you know, at the time.
Like I remember at the time he wanted to go back to Liverpool.
Yeah.
But Liverpool just wouldn't match. He wanted Liverpool to match Newcastle's offer. They wouldn't do it. So he went to Newcastle. Safe to say the Newcastle situation didn't work out great.
It was toxic.
He was there for 4 years and made 71 appearances, you know, and there's been all sorts of stuff put out there, like that he was feigning injuries and all this sort of stuff, and the breakdown with Shearer and all this kind of stuff.
They had like his comments in his book, and I know he says he regretted going to Newcastle, and Shearer came out publicly and called him on that. But you have to look at, I don't think Michael would feign, like he tore his hamstring when he was 19, he broke his metatarsal in 2005. But beyond that, he's had many groin injuries and thigh injuries as he had on top of all that. You know, he hasn't had a very, you know, nice and easy sail career, like, you know.
Well, it's the nature of the beast, really, as well, because you think about it, like he's a striker.
Yeah.
But he's a very slight individual, you know what I mean? Like he's not a big lad. Like
small, he's like a little young lad. Like
you'll even remember that goal against Arsenal in the FA Cup. I mean, he bounced off Lee Dixon, you know what I mean? And how he's still on his feet till this day, I don't know. But you got to remember, he was playing in his career in the Premier League.
Yeah.
You know, at a very young age, he was at a very high level. He was very, very slight. Like even when you compare him to Fowler was much more.
Fowler had a bit more build. Yeah.
Whereas where Michael was very small and slight, you know. So he was going up like. Remember the defenders this guy was going up against. These were big, powerful
seasoned
defenders as well. And you know, so it's not surprised he would pick up groin injuries or stuff like that, you know. And I just think we have to be careful about judging him in terms of his injuries and stuff like that. Look, if you're injured, you're injured. This guy loved football. He loved scoring. It was his world. So he always wanted to be on the pitch, which was the major falling out with Shearer in the end, was where he felt when he was fit, he wasn't played, and he felt he could have added to Newcastle on the pitch, and that frustrated him as well.
Which is nothing wrong with that at all, you know.
Yeah, and Shearer at the time, I think, tried to sell it at the point that he was injured and there was always a problem, blah 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 blah. This is a kid who always wanted to be on the pitch and always wanted to play football. He was a footballing kid, no doubt about it. But today we're mainly going to look, obviously, at his Liverpool career because this is a legend series, and we're both Liverpool fans, so we need to kind of figure out where the line lies in terms of how we feel about him. I was a huge fan of Michael Owen, and still to this day I can appreciate what he did for Liverpool. It was incredible, and I just think, I don't know, if you're a Liverpool fan and you wash all that away because he went to United at a time where we didn't want him and we weren't bringing him to the club, and you're expecting a guy to just like. And I don't think there was that many clubs at the time in for him. I think it was only United that were in for him.
It wasn't a choice. He didn't have a selection. And that mainly goes down, I think, to the injuries, down to the Newcastle situation, down to you have to remember when he went to Madrid, like so many players before him, it didn't work out. You go to Bernabeu, they're on you like a rash there. I think he got, I have it here, did he get 13 and 36 or something? He didn't do very well.
13 and 36, yeah.
13 and 36. And like, you know, Noel, as well, the Madrid fans want you a goal or two a game every week. They want, you know.
I remember his move to Madrid as well just seemed so weird because I remember them, these were the Galacticos, you know.
Yeah.
And I thought Michael Owen, although he was world class and he was a brilliant footballer, he wasn't a Galactico.
He wasn't.
You know what I mean? He wasn't this superstar off the pitch that he was on the pitch. Michael led a very quiet life. He was a footballer. He showed up for his training. He was exceptional on the pitch. He scored goals.
He wasn't the David Beckham, like he wasn't, you know, that appeal, that kind of global appeal.
He wasn't that social guy who was out there with a stunning 8-rated model on his arm in every magazine and all that kind of stuff. He was a guy who did his business on the pitch and went home to his family, and that's what he was about. Although he had a love for racehorses, we can't forget about that.
He still does, doesn't he?
And racehorses,
Yeah,
it's a big passion of his. But let's get into this. I suppose we'll delve down through it, and then of course you've got some great stories there as well and stuff like that. We'll look at some of the goals. But obviously, born Michael James Owen, 14th December 1979, 41 years of age. Place of birth was Chester, England. Beautiful part of England. Anyone who's been to Chester, fabulous. We all know, of course, he was a striker. Did a youth career, 91 to 96. He was a youth player at Liverpool before breaking into the first team. 96 to 2004, Liverpool. 2006 or 216 appearances, 118 goals. So basically good for a goal every other game.
Can't argue with that.
2004 to 5, Real Madrid, 36 appearances, 13 goals. As we said already, not a great move.
No.
Obviously, was good financially, but overall, I don't think he was ever built for the toughness of La Liga.
Yeah, you have to carry a whole different career. You touch on it now. You have to carry a whole different persona off the pitch with you as well as on it. And if you're not doing one or the other, you're getting synchronized every single week by that. They're like they won't settle for anything less than that. That's just the way it is.
We see it kind of similar now with De Ligt at Juventus.
Or Hazard, you could even say at Real, yeah.
So then 2005 to 2009 to move to Newcastle. Obviously, he looked at wanting to come to Liverpool. He had made contact with Liverpool, but Rafa didn't fancy it, and we wouldn't match the Newcastle offer, which is what he wanted us to do, but headed off to Newcastle. 71 appearances, 26 goals. Again, if you look at the stats would say nearly again a goal in every other game, you know what I mean?
Barely being used as well.
Barely being used. Kind of ostracized. And of course, Shearer was a god there at the time, you know what I mean? And Shearer
there was only one side that people were going to be on in that city, and there's no arguments there. That's the way it is.
Exactly. 09 to 2012, the move to Manchester United, 31 appearances, 5 goals. Obviously, the 5 goals.
The famous goal. Yeah,
absolutely. And then 2012, 2013, Stoke City, 8 appearances, 1 goal.
Retired in 2013, I believe.
Retired in 2013. Obviously for England as well, 98 to 2008, we remember those goals as well. 89 appearances, 40 goals. So again, if you look down through his record, typically it's a goal every other game.
And that's with all the injuries that he's had.
Yeah. And that's right down through his career from start to finish, So honours, FA Cup in 2001, of course, the famous treble with Liverpool, the League Cup in 01 as well, and in 02-03. Charity Shield in 01, UEFA Cup in 01, and UEFA Super Cup in 01. So what some people call a treble, some might call 5.
Yes.
But not to get into that. Individual awards, as you mentioned already, the Ballon d'Or in 2001, the first Englishman for a long time to do it, and there hasn't been one since. World Soccer World Player of the Year 2001, BBC Sports Personality of the Year in 1998. Which, if you remember back to those times, those BBC awards are huge awards back then. Premier League Golden Boot 97, 98, 98, 99. Premier League Player of the Season 97, 98. What a phenomenal season he had.
31 goals, I think it was it?
Yeah. Young Player of the Year 97, 98. Team of the Year 97, 98. He was just incredible. And he went into the English Football Hall of Fame in 2014. So that's a rundown of the man. So go on, talk to me then. This was your guy.
Yeah, look, I completely understand both sides of the coin because it's valid and I get that. But if Rafa doesn't want you back, I hold nothing against Rafa. Rafa was looking out for us and it didn't fit at the time for Michael. It didn't fit for us. That's fair enough. We leave that there and we draw a line on it. But I don't want every time we think about Michael Owen, about his little time that he had at Man United and he helped them win a title. Well, fair enough. That's his own business. I want to focus on the Michael that I grew up and loved, the one that I respected, and I still do. I found out, obviously, I was previously working in Eason's, and I found out he was coming, and I was getting a lot of stick in there, like, oh, you're going to get it signed, or you're going to completely avoid it. I said, I am looking forward to this like a child, and I don't care. That's my opinion. He was someone I idolised when I broke onto the scene as a Liverpool fan. He was the number 10. He was the poster boy in the census, and he was the match day in the match magazines and all. He was there, and in the sticker book or the pencil topper. Like, to me, he was my hero. Like, he was my idol. So when I think of Michael, A slight bit comes into my head about 4-3 against Man City, but it doesn't turn me off, because on the flip side, I can accept it. Who's to say he didn't deserve a Premier League crown, albeit with Man United? Who's to say he shouldn't have one though? And it's a valid point in my opinion. When I went to meet him, I was like a bit, wasn't thinking about United at all. It was just when I was young and when he was young, it was different to the age I'm at now and the age he was at now, because we're both at different times in our lives. So I went up and put the book down. And he goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Hey," and he goes, "Who do you support?" And I said, "Liverpool," and he smirked. So he was signing the book, and the agent goes, "Is there anything you want to ask, Michael?" And I said, "Going forward with your career in sports, how do you see it?" And he goes, "I'm doing journalism and I'm doing punditry." Niall, he was saying it, but I didn't feel it. He doesn't want, you can tell when he's doing punditry, he's very mellow and because I think he misses the game so much, playing the game, being involved in the game. And I think the punditry part just keeps him afloat a bit within football. He said to me when he finished signing and he took a picture, he goes, "So do you still like me now?" I said, "I do." And he goes, "I appreciate that." And I think he comes across, very blunt and very real and very serious. I read a bit of his book. I started it. He didn't have a great upbringing, came from a very basic, poor background, a few kids, I think brothers, sisters, nothing special. He had to work to get into the Liverpool Academy, had to work to get onto the pitch. Gerard Houllier gave him the platform and he ran with it, you know what I mean? I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, the good massively outweighs the bad. It's not like he said, "I'm going to Man United, I don't want to go back to Liverpool. We're in the title race." He hits a 4-3 winner against us. It wasn't exactly like that, and it didn't go down exactly like that. If you're offered to a club, they don't want you. Can they really hold it against him? I don't think so. I really don't.
Yeah, I think if you look deep in it, there's a number of layers to this with this kid.
Yeah.
He comes across as being a very average kind of guy. I mean, if you look at his punditry and stuff like that, he's created a career in punditry. And people kind of take the mickey out for stating the obvious,
he does.
It's a game of two halves, and all this kind of normal stuff that us lads in pubs talk, as opposed to the pundits, you know what I mean? But there's still something endearing about him. But I think when you look back on it, I think it's not the first time Rafa made a bad decision about a player.
Yeah,
that's for sure. I mean, we know all along the stuff with Alonso and everything else that went on and stuff like that and all. You know what I mean? And there's a number of issues there. But I think when he looks back on his career, I think there's a number of things that stick out. I think it does hurt him to move to United, and I wonder, does he look back at that? And although he got a Premier League out of it and stuff like that, I wonder when he looks at his whole career, one, the decision to move to Real Madrid
was wrong.
In hindsight.
In hindsight, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And that course, of course, led him down a certain path. And I just wonder, does he look back on his career and say, "I should have just done what Stevie done and I should have just stayed there"?
And he could have maybe had a crown with us. We don't know.
We'll never know that. I mean, we can't guarantee that. But, he moved to Real in 2004 and 2005. We won the Champions League in 2005.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
What could have been?
I just wonder, does he have those moments at times in his career? And I wouldn't say it's regrets, but I think his career, for the talent that he was, should have been so much more.
It should have been a lot more, even though it is illustrious. There should be a lot more added, as you just talked about, layers. There should be a lot more added to that. Do you remember that celebration he did when he was lighting the fire? He was warming his hand. He's just 2 late goals against Arsenal. Arsenal in that time, you put FA Cup and Arsenal in the same sentence nearly. It was a given. Let's be real, you know what I mean? Comes on 2 late goals. He just had absolutely no fear. And I know we talk about the divide in the fan base, but I do think deep down a lot of people have a lot of respect for him. I do,
Yeah, I think some of the fan base have to be seen to say it.
Yeah,
because they want to nail their colours to a certain flag. But I think in reality, he didn't choose United over us.
No,
we were never in the conversation. So the move really, he chose United over Newcastle. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? In reality, when you break it down on paper and stuff like that. Now, the fact that he was our boy and we started him as a youth and we started him in his professional career and brought success and stuff like that at a certain level. And the fact that he got his head turned by Real Madrid,
yeah,
and stuff like that. I just think, I just wonder, is there moments like you're talking about that interaction you had with him there, and like when he heard you were a Liverpool fan, he wanted to know how you felt.
He said it to me out straight, and I gave him a straight answer. Like, I was there to get my book signed because I love him and I respect him. You know, it wasn't anything else.
But it goes to show that it still bothers him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that he does care. And he gets awful stick. I mean, I was over in Liverpool a few years ago with Ben. We went to a Legends game. They were playing, I think AC Milan it was. So it was Cafu and all was playing, stuff like that. But Michael came on and he got a torrid reception from the fans. I mean, every time he picked up the ball, they booed him and stuff like that. And again, like you say, I can sort of see it a bit and I can understand it. But I
think he does too, to be honest.
Yeah, I think he does too as well. And I think he's come out a number of times and he's wrote a number of stories and stuff about it, trying to explain himself to the Liverpool fans, what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
He's been very clear in his books about what the interaction was at the time, you know, how he ended up at Newcastle, how he ended up at Man United, you know, why he went to Real Madrid and stuff like that and all, you know. And I just think when I look back, like you look at some of these careers in Wikipedia or on the internet and stuff like that, and you look at that career and you think, okay, although he achieved quite a bit, he must look back on that and go, that could have been so much more.
Should be.
Yeah.
It should be a lot more.
And with less teams.
Yes. Yeah, that's a fair comment. It should be more of that and less of the other, you know what I mean? 100%.
So that's how I kind of sum him up. I mean, he gave me some great moments, you know what I mean? I mean, I followed his career because everyone knows I'm a huge Fowler fan, so I loved Robbie Fowler. He was my guy and stuff like that, you know? So Michael was kind of in that vein as well.
See, what Fowler was to you, my kind of like my age and me kind of coming into the Liverpool growing up, Owen was to me what Fowler was to you. You know, that kind of way, like your bond, your love, you know, that kind of way.
So let's go back and look at some of the moments. We'll look at some of his Liverpool goals because I thought some of these are exceptional. You've already mentioned, obviously, the Arsenal one.
Oh.
And a little story on that Arsenal, that cup final. I was playing in the final of a golf tournament down in Westport. And I was listening to the commentary on Radio 5 Live. And Arsenal had taken the lead. And I thought, that was it. I said, Arsenal, you know how good Arsenal
we're bollocks there. Yeah.
Once they get ahead, they could shut up shop. They had brilliant players and all that kind of stuff. And the next thing I heard, we equalised. And I was thinking, God, I might get back in now to get the end of this. Because we'll probably go extra time and penalties or whatever it is, you know. And the next thing word came through, we could hear it, that he had scored.
Again.
Unbelievable, like, you know what I mean?
But that's the player he was. Just natural, raw talent that it didn't matter the occasion. It didn't matter the team. As you said, he was bouncing off, but he knew that. He just didn't care. He had no fear whatsoever. And I think, as I said, Gerard Houllier deserves massive credit for giving them that platform and letting them off the leash. Just let him be free and run wild. That's what he basically did. You know, go and score your goals and enjoy your football.
But I picked out a number of goals here. One was remember the Newcastle goal, the ball in from Gerrard. And he it's kind of shinned it nearly into the far corner.
The back stick when he kind of rolled.
It came in across.
Down the bank. Yeah.
Came in across him, which I thought was a brilliant goal. The Grimsby Town one, where Maka cut in from the left and he played the ball into him and he just lets fly with a ball into the top corner.
Was it the goal against United as in the Warden Cup when he was through 1-on-1 and he chipped? Was it Barthez?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Like, you have to remember, he still has a lot of work to do. You know, the ball comes through. He has a little look up. If you rewatch it, you can watch it like it was yesterday. He has a little look and he just lifts it. It's just
myself, Mark, and Darren still talk about that goal. Even when we're talking about Man United.
No matter, like, he just has that little kind of look, and he's like, "Right, I know what I'm doing here." And Barthez just looks around like, "What happened there?" Like, he's just like, "What?" Lifts it over him, like.
The one he scored against Newcastle, the impossible angle that he rifled in off the underneath of the bar, was an exceptional goal as well. Then the one with Gary Mack, the one up at Middlesbrough. against Gary Mack, where he passed on with a beautiful pass and he just slotted it into the bottom right. But he's such an eye, and the one thing about
his eye was
the one thing about Mike Owen, and it's something that you teach young strikers coming up in the game now. Always be between the posts, because if you're between the posts, you always have a chance. And it's taught to this day in training. And if you look at Mike Owen was generally the epitome of that, you know.
Yeah.
What other one? Everton, the Everton one where he beats the two players and he just rifles it in. Unbelievable. The Coventry one where he walks through the whole defence and slots it home.
His dribbling and his balance, his technique, but not only that, when he got through, it's not like he was wasteful. It's like he knew exactly, he had the picture in his head when he got through where the ball was going. And his ratio must be unbelievable, like, because his finishing was just, you know.
And you rarely seen him as well when he got into that position to have an opportunity, what we call, I think these days they call it a big chance.
Yeah.
He always hit the target. You never seen him skying balls, or you never see him blasting balls.
It was a good save, or it was a goal.
It was a goal, exactly. Then the volley to the far corner against Benfica, which is one I never forget. It was an absolute belter of a goal. And then the Newcastle one, where he beats 3 defenders and then just slots it home and stuff like that, you know. So there was exceptional goals.
1998 World Cup, Argentina. He really ran the fucking pitch. Like Glenn Hoddle bleeding, nearly lost his bleeding hair. Like he did.
And again, these were big guys, and he just bounced off them.
The Argentinians were really physical and classic style, like, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, he has scored unbelievable goals in his career. Any others that stick out in your mind?
It was definitely the Barthez one, and the one that the celebration when he runs over to the corner and he's doing that, like that always puts a smile on my face. Like, but you know, as I said, what age was he? 21 against Arsenal. You know, you're thinking a goal down to Arsenal, even if you have a season 11. You know, Arsenal were in that prime. FA Cup was theirs, nearly to behold. He comes on, and all he thinks about in his head is just, I need to score. He doesn't think about anything else. And he comes on and gets 2 goals. You know, the injuries unfortunately did take that toll as well. And like, he still had, like you said, he's look at the record, his goals to games still, you know, on top of that. And it is a shame that there's not a lot more that could be added to it. Well, it is already an illustrious career. Like, you know, the Ballon d'Or. He's the last player that we know present, like English, to win it. You know what I mean? And that deserves like an accolade in itself, like, you know, that kind of way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's not much more to be said, I suppose. Look, we're not going to change the minds of people who think he's a traitor because he went to Man United.
No.
You're not going to change their minds. What I would say to those people is go look at the evidence as presented in a court of law, if you like. In our court of law, if you like. You know, as to why those moves happened, and why the move back to us didn't happen. And you can't lay that at his door. And as you said, you met him, he was endearing.
He was.
He does care about the Liverpool fans, and he does care about his legacy at Liverpool, which is often frowned upon by the Liverpool fan base. But there's no doubt about it. He belongs in the Legend series, and he was an absolute baller on his day. And in free flow with a ball between control, finish, eye for goal, team player, you know, he was exceptional, absolutely exceptional.
I think it's nice that he gets to show that it's a positive thing instead of thinking about all the negatives or trying to dig out the negatives on him. You know, it's something that, you know, he wore the shirt, he gave his all for the shirt, and that's what we remember most. You know what I mean?
I mean, the negatives are there, and he's more aware of them than anyone.
Yeah.
And he takes that on the chin, and he accepts that maybe his decision making at times wasn't what it should be.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt he belongs in the Legend series, and there's no doubt he has created some unbelievable moments for Liverpool fans and for United fans, and probably at times for Real as well, and Newcastle.
And Stoke.
kind of. one moment. But yeah, there's no doubt he belongs there. So this has been your Legend series, Mike Owen, with Craig, massive Mike Owen fan, and my brother from the Shankly Sessions and the Upper Tier podcast. Until next time, Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube, the upper tier on Facebook and Instagram, at the _upper_ tier on Twitter. And of course, share, subscribe, and like the episodes. And always comment and let us know what's your thoughts on Michael Owen. Liverpool fans, let us know. Can you wash away the whole history of Man United where he went there and accept the fact that he was such a great player at Liverpool? Or is the struggle just too much? Craig, till next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.